Interesting one as it comes down. Sanguine versus Team Ryder. This is going to be the first elimination match that we will have for the event.
Hey, Gore.
One of these teams is going home.
Would you say it's Ryder or die?
Just going to let that one sit for a little bit as we...
Either way,
that was actually pretty good. I'll give you credit. That made me laugh.
I had some feedback come through. I had some feedback come through on social media yesterday, folks, that people wanted more puns from me. So now you got it. It's back. It's Game Grover, baby. We're going to go for a full repeat.
I guess this is... You asked for this. This is something that you... The people, I guess, spoke for. Either way, Splice yesterday were the team that took down Ryder, and SEA overall for the length of this year has yet to find a win in any of their sets. Sanguine, on the other side, did get handled by Virtus Pro, so both of these teams didn't honestly get a good chance to showcase themselves. They were about maybe 20 minutes of gameplay between the two of them. Do you think this is the better chance, I think, to kind of step up and showcase what they're all about?
I think, well, you have to, because it's the elimination match, and if you don't, you're going home immediately, and that'll be a bit of a shame here, especially for a team like Sanguine, who are coming out of this as the first seed, the highest seed from the North American PGS, after Big Egos went and took down Renegades yesterday, even after with a roster swap for their sub coming in, with Loki not being there, and 3 role swaps we found out after the fact. There's a lot of pressure on this team Sanguine now to perform as expected. On the other side of things, Ryder, they're still batting for their first LAN win, and even if they can go home from this with some LAN experience, if they take 2 losses in a row, it will be demoralizing for the region. It might spur them to do bigger and better things, as we have seen happen previously, but I'd love to see them come out with at least 1 map victory here. They'll need some serious pocket strats to do so, Gore. Let's look at a couple of things from yesterday, for example, shall we? The most banned champion for Sanguine was Torvald, but Ryder, they banned something different every single time. They played 10 unique champions, Ryder, but they didn't really seem to have a handle on any of them, so I'm looking for these pocket strats this time.
Well, it's one of those things, especially for Ryder. Over the course of their gameplay in SEA, they have been a different beast than I think anyone in the region has truly felt. It's definitely a big step from Wolfpack, even, who fell down to, I believe, either 2nd or 3rd place, being replaced by Ryder. But the big thing about Ryder has been the fact that even though they looked fantastic in their region, this has always been the case for SEA, once they got on LAN, it was a no-show, essentially, in terms of whether or not they were going to be able to come through. Skrilly, as you see on your screen right now, has actually been a really big player for them over the course of their split, as well as yesterday. Again, there were a lot of good moments for them, but do you think, is there any obvious way that Ryder can improve on themselves, or is this just a general, you have to full 180?
You have to step up to the bat. The problem is when you're playing against teams in a LAN championship like this, if you don't step up to the bat and if you don't meet people toe-to-toe, then you're just going to be walked over by anybody that will take an inch and turn it into a mile. And that's what we saw in that Frog Isle game, especially is the fact that as soon as Team Ryder didn't quite know what they were doing, as soon as they were a little unsure of themselves, Splice they smelled blood in the water, they pounced, they went in for the kill, and there was nothing that Ryder could do. I want them to be more aggressive, I need them to be more confident here. Their draft, sure, it needs to be a little bit different, and pocket picks might help turn things around, but for me, it's how they play that is the most impactful thing.
Well, overall, I think they've been able to showcase, again, I think the aim is there, the skill is there. It is all coming down to working as a team, which is something that their opponents, Sanguine, have a lot of experience with, not only just because they've been playing together for a long time, but they've also been to LANs constantly this year. It's something we mentioned yesterday, but I mean, they were even able to beat SK out during the Vegas LAN.
And also, really importantly from Sanguine, is they did take Virtus Pro to end up being a 3-4 victory for Virtus Pro, lost for Sanguine yesterday, but the one thing which Alvin remarked in the interview with Virtus Pro after that set is, we didn't expect Sanguine to be playing the quote-unquote EU meta, you know, the top of the global just sort of leaderboard meta, what everybody plays, the Victor, the Willow, and we saw them, as we said, take Virtus Pro to the edge. We know that they're capable of doing great things, and as a result, I'm expecting that they might be able to get away with a little bit more of that around this time. I'm not expecting them to run into as much resistance as we saw on that Bright Marsh game, for example, yesterday with Sanguine and Virtus Pro. The surprise grok might not be a factor, and as a result, they might just have an easy 2-0 through this if Sanguine, excuse me, Ryder isn't prepared to pull something really crazy out of the bag.
Well, Zulu, Jalen, Sanity, Envy, Kresnik, 4 out of 5 of the members that have been playing together all of this year has been going well for them. Bagel Wow, who joined in, who has so far been impressive, and our first map is going to be Bright Marsh. This was picked up by Sanguine, or Sanguine are going to be first pick. Ryder have chosen the map though, and Brightmarsh is notorious. I'll say CIS SEA. If you're going to try to find a win, this is the map to go to.
Yeah, and both of these teams have actually played Brightmarsh yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll be going back to basics here. You know, Sanguine did get a bit dumpstered by the Grok pick, and Ryder just got, well, rolled over by Splice, and Splice did Splice things against them. So I'm expecting them to, you know, take a little bit of a learning experience from that. I don't think that Sanguine will be suckering themselves with an interesting draft that Grok can play into again this time, but I think that maybe Ryder might try and tune into a composition which is a bit more map-specific here.
So with a lot of the things that have been going, and I'm going to turn this away, I think, from team specifics for a second just to ask about the general picks and bans. I know you've been keeping track of a lot of them. Torvald has been probably the most banned overall.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about some of the champions that we are either seeing banned out or lack of? So Drogos has been in that equation, and how about the Willow as well?
Well, the Willow has actually been pretty consistently there as picks and banned very frequently. The big thing that we're noticing, not necessarily a lack of, is that more than damage champions dictating the draft, this LAN is all about frontline, folks. Nothing else really matters. It's what you get and what you don't get, which will often dictate how you win. Now, a big thing that we have seen so far as well today is that Khan has been a bit more iffy today than yesterday. Yesterday, Khan came out of this with a 100% pick ban ratio and also sitting at an 80% win rate. This time around, we've seen Khan stumped a little bit a couple of times, and Overpower isn't quite as useful as you might imagine. I'm wondering if people might be starting to overvalue them a little bit, and that might be a trap which maybe Ryder will fall into if they just want that comfort.
Do you think Khan, as a champion, has fallen off, or do you think that this is teams figuring out how to play against him because he's been so prevalent this year?
I think a little bit of both, right? And I also think that Khan is actually more map-specific than anything else, but Khan is a bit of a safety net for you, right? You put him with a damage carry in there, a pocket healer there, CC immunity there, you know, good peel, because you do have plenty of that coming through with stuff like Commander's Grab and Battle Shout if necessary, and if push comes to shove, you use Overpower, right? So Khan is a safety net. There are champions that you can do technically a little bit more with in the front line, and you can get more aggressive with, like Ash or Fernando, for example, but they're a little bit less good at just augmenting your carries.
Well, Sanguine are going to be the first pick. Talus and Willow off of the board there for Ryder. On the other side, it's going to be the double front line. Again, Khan, Torvald, not too surprising to see those, but Talus, I think, coming out is, I want to say, maybe a showing of Ryder, something that they didn't expect to go against, or maybe something that has just been prominent these last couple days that has been doing a lot of work.
I think we're going to have to see, yeah, a little bit of something different now coming through, and this makes me wonder if Ryder might be playing into a specific backline champion which is vulnerable to Talus. They might want to pull out the Ruckus as well. We know that gets that emitter shield gets shredded very quickly by Talus if you're not careful, as well as being quite vulnerable to it. But overall, Sanguine, first pick Makoa, it's reliable. I'm expecting for Ryder on a Brightmarsh map to go with Nara, maybe a support here. They might want to grab the Ying early potentially if they don't want to lock in a Lian, or they might grab a Fernando either.
The darkness.
But this is a different one. We didn't see this picked at all yesterday by Ryder. They won with it 5-0 in the online phase of the SEA PGS score.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Banned out in both games.
Even though it's not something that I think they got to, or that they didn't get to run yesterday, something that you probably aren't expecting to see too often, this is something that, again, once it falls down, I actually am looking at Skrilly more than likely to be running this, just because this team has a history of success with Androxus. Whether you have Torvald or not, if you can find the way to make him work. It also kind of pushes Sanguine, I want to say, away from the Drogos a little more, just to make it a little bit more timid.
Or at least they're going to have to draft pretty heavily around a defensive composition, and Makoa is really good for that, so we do have to take that into account. Liana and Fernando coming through is a very strong core for Sanguine. Very quickly though, Ryder locking a Maldamba, so they're not looking for this kind of a Nara Ying composition, which makes me think that the Maldamba might be here for a bit more reliable healing over distance for Androxus, maybe some movement speed off of Swift Spirit, so you can do a bit more with that. And Ryder this time as well, one thing we noticed about their compositions yesterday, not much damage coming from their front line. Now with a Ruckus online, they're going to be able to augment that a little bit. They have a bit more positive pressure coming through, which will help take the burden of just trying to kill everybody off of Androxus here.
Well, Leon, Cassie both going to be picking themselves up on the side of Sanguine. And again, this is going to be do or die. This is the beginning of the set, but whoever loses 2 games in a row will end up going home. It will be the end of the road for them. So as we see the last pick coming in for Ryder, how are you feeling about Sanguine's draft?
Sanguine, it's looking, you know, it's looking okay. It's looking relatively standard. You got a Makoa, Jan, Cassie, Ying. We had a Drogo's last pick as well coming through from Ryder. It's all, again, relatively standard here. And the Fernando as well as that third pick for Sanguine. It's just reliable, right? It's more of the same. Ryder, they're in a position where their execution strategy or their execution threshold is comparatively higher, but if they can get Androxus to pop off, they might just have a win here.
Well, there's a lot on the line, but relatively standard drafts from both of these teams, looking solid all around though. So we're going to go ahead and throw it over to the cast to see how game number 1 in the first elimination match of the preliminaries is going to go.
Thanks, Gore. Rain Day and Pretty Air here for the cast, and Ryder locking in the Drogos at the very end, and the Androxus at the beginning may give a glimmer of hope to you SEA fans out there. They didn't get a chance to play the man with the accursed arm yesterday. Will that make the difference today?
I hope so. And they get in their booth, they're kind of laughing, they're having some fun. I think they're picking things that they're comfortable with, which at this stage for a Ryder is probably more important than picking the absolute right matchup on paper every single time. I think feeling will do them a lot better than a statistical advantage would.
Well, last set of the day for you Paladins fans. More esports as the week continues, qualifying your finalists for HRX, but this one will send somebody home. Sanguine must win. Ryder must win as well. Notably, big game Cassie on the side of Sanguine looking to take down these two front lines.
Specifically going to be really good in this matchup right here, and hooking it in just to make it that much easier. The wall will provide some respite. Beautiful body blocking there to keep the one alive just for a little bit longer, and First Blood actually falling the way of Ryder, and they are doing things with this man advantage.
And you know what? Envy has a chance to go and get some big game damage onto Lillian, who is there by himself, isolated, but he pulls back with El Zulu, and I just love the ability for them to work as a team, take numbers advantages. They're smart. These are guys that a lot of the pros expected to find their way to the top 4 of this tournament, but so far, Ryder, 90% and counting.
Can't believe that Zulu lives there, and that is going to come back to haunt Ryder in a big way. This hook going to go straight through the hands. If he even throws him up, he does. The hook misses. 90% for Ryder as they are forced to fall back. Sanguine Esports finally in the driver's seat.
And I am Ray. I mean, he's really been synonymous with this Androxus for a long time. They have a chance to get back in it, but he's going to have to make a play here. And very young squad, Ryder. 14, 15-year-old representatives from the Southeast Asian region. Can they pull it together? It forces a Ying ultimate right there. And Envy will just barely stay alive.
Early swing of ultimates here. They're both support ultimates up and available now. The fear, couldn't tell who it hit. Managed to at least at Fernando, and Envy will walk into it late, but it does not stop Sanguine Esports from finding multiple frags.
Oh, and this Dragon Punch is huge.
No
Can it
way.
find it? Oh my goodness, it felt harder to miss that than to hit it. But
honestly,
obviously, so much going on. I think he just was trying to stay alive.
Did he maybe he thought that there was going to be an immortal up or something?
Yeah,
and
he tried to bait it out.
Yeah, you'll
and then
see
circle
Drogos
around.
players try to do that, but it's close, right? Only support ultimates were basically up for that fight. We saw an Enlightenment come through as well. It's close, and that is a very low percentage gamble to be taking if that's the case.
Envy running the big game. We haven't seen it too much over this part of the tournament, as we will be heading back here for a little bit of a talk about that as we get the game sorted out for you. Thanks for your patience. I think big game is one of those things we have to look at a little bit deeper in terms of the value it's going to bring to these front line kind of compositions, because the Inara is super valuable, but big game slowly started showing up towards the end of the fall split.
Tenor brought it out a lot, and it's really easy to use against frontliners like Ruckus and Inara. Inara, no mobility whatsoever. Ruckus, extremely slow. And the reason that's important is because disengage is the hardest part of Cassie's kit. It's the slowest moving projectile now with the increased speeds to both her in-hands and her blast shots.
You got to adjust to that, not necessarily with the kit, making it feel comfortable. And so it takes a little bit of expertise. But as it's become ingrained, we will start to see those Ruckus, those Inara, those Fernandos maybe just fall a little bit faster than you're used to, because that buff lasts for 6 seconds, 10% HP of the target, so it's hurtful when you have a tank who has a lot of HP to start with. But so far, Ryder actually looking pretty good, having a pretty contested fight. I think more contested than most would have assumed with Sanguine's reputation heading into this.
There are good things happening, right? That hook lands on a Ruckus, but he gets a wall from Inara. They're getting body blocks, they're getting peels, they're getting a lot of very hyper-aware plays.
Right.
The one thing that I want to see change, though, is something that Box actually did mention, is this Androxus, I think, needs to pop off. It's picked early, which isn't always the safest move, especially on a map like Bright Marsh. It's not the most popular pick. There's no Torval involved. It's really a pick that has to stand on its own here, so we have to see a lot of value from it. It's prioritized early. It's a comfort pick for this squad. You got to see it do work.
The importance of, I think, the flexibility of different lineups in this best of 3 is going to be huge, because whatever works now, I mean, a lot of champions on the board. Androxus, we've seen him banned. We haven't seen him be available. But every team right now playing a little bit, not scared, but tentative.
Sure.
I think they know that it's time to go home.
Yeah.
And when you put next game in line where you know you're going to have someone back against the wall, what comes out then? That's what I'm starting to look at. But still so much to do here on Bright Marsh. And I think Sanguine are poised to do it. Elzu barely getting away with that 44 health. I mean, his Makoa play has been pretty good today.
That was really, really rough. You hate seeing that little Makoa scoot away, especially when you know it's been such a tough task to even bring him that low. Makoa is one of those players that you want to be able to bring down and deal with quickly because that amount of HP is very difficult to get through. Zulu plays these front lines very often. He's a very veteran guy as well. He's been around floating on these PGS teams up near the top for a long time. Played in the PPL for a little bit. Didn't find much success there.
Yeah, I mean, Splice, Envy as well. And you look at these guys who have this resume that, you would expect to perform very, very well here today. And I didn't see that, at least out the gate. I saw more hesitancy. I want to see a little bit more confidence. I think the confidence of Armada, I want that to translate into Sanguine here because people have given them so much confidence. You wonder if maybe they've heard those videos, they've seen them, they know what people are thinking about them, and are taking that a little bit too close to the heart. However, Sanguine say, no, Ryder, don't worry. As you get back in game, we'll find out that we are 2-0 ahead. So Ryder, although a nice contest on the objective, not able to get it done on defense, and they go down 2-0.
Will be a couple of ultimates, though, for both sides as we head into the second round here. Leon does have her Enlightenment. Fernando does have his Immortal. Ruckus has Hexafire. There's a Dread Serpent available, and a lot of other things are floating pretty close to full charged. The Scout from Cassie, it's just information. It's not the most impactful ultimate. It's not the least impactful ultimate. It's damn close, though.
I am Ray getting poked down a little bit here. We talked about the youth of Team Ryder and the relative land inexperience. Nice CC immunity from the Enlightenment. He gets the 1600 damage as well. Earthen Guard had run out. And so that's just a lot of value for Begawau, who was a support traditionally, but is flexed onto the damage roll for this team specifically, and it has worked out for them a lot better than most had assumed. 31% for Ryder, but Sanguine now in control.
Ultimate's available for Team Ryder, but if they're going to lose staggered picks like this, they're not even going to have the chance to use them, and that's what's scary right now. Goes for the long-distance hook, but Zulu will not find the connection.
And this isn't just some casual game where you may be able to pull back with, 50% health, and 40% health, and 30% health, and the enemy team stops chasing you. You just keep doing that, El Zulu's going to go to your base. That's what happened. Makoa just said, okay, keep giving me room, keep losing health. I'm going to continually be better at you in this 1v1. And Sanguine, man, show their ability to take advantage of a bad situation and make it worse for Ryder. 3-0 goes the score.
Every inch you give them, they're happy to take. 2 minutes on the clock now for this push to find its way home. Wow, feared off again, sliding in, almost has Enlightenment, but the hammer dropped. Skrilly will find the killing blow.
There's something I love about that, though. Begawau willing to take a risk, willing to make a play. And I think, Ryder is a great game. It was really good for... I think just teams were trying to get their rhythm here, and I think you can look at Splice, you can look at Sanguine, teams that, we know are going to have a chance from North America. Getting a rhythm against a team, getting a land win, that's a big deal.
Absolutely is, and seeing the differences in Leon play has honestly been kind of interesting to watch. A lot of guys playing those pretty aggressively, and it's a stark contrast to what we saw from Alex at the very start of the day, who just looked like he wanted to be an anti-heal bot in the back line, never really taking many risks. But with every risk comes a reward. When you look at the way Ares was playing it in his set and the way that we're seeing Begawau play this fairly aggressively on in this set, you're able to get in there with Leon. If you have your Enlightenment up, you can absolutely make some serious play.
I like the shots here from Begawau, escorting the payload from the backside and using El Zulu's shield as a bit of a barrier and a bit of rest in between the onslaughts of damage. Great use of the presence. Actually rotates targets at the very last second. Still claims the 800, but now forces the heal to stay alive. And there is the full heal as well from the Illusory Rift to keep everyone alive on the side of Sanguine.
Playing very defensively right now. Ryder are very reluctant to even come off of their shelf, off of the base. 3 kills for nothing. And this looks like it could be an end to game 1 for Sanguine Esports unless somebody from Ryder can put a stop to it.
And is that another Dragon Punch? This time it hits, but the cost they pay for that Dragon Punch may just be too much. It's a nice opportunity to leverage some big game damage. The first part of it actually does get Earthen Garden, and that keeps the Inara alive for now. However, unfortunately, it does seem to be that there's just too much power from I Am Ray, looking to continually close out this defense and give Team Ryder another chance in this game. Sanguine may have just missed their golden opportunity to finish it off quickly.
Oh, they let him back in. They keep the door open. Comeback mechanic is enabled, But the way that Sanguine dealt with that in the round prior was they just put their foot to the gas immediately. They came in, they popped every ultimate that they needed to, just to make sure that this game did not go south even for a second, that they didn't give Ryder an inch. What I'd like to see different in this round is, frankly, just pretty much the opposite. I want to see Ryder use their ultimates, set the tone. If they can just get control of the point, they can basically throw everyone out on a suicide zone just to slow them down, let comeback mechanic do its thing, and stay in the game.
And you know what? They get a point. I mean, they play defensive, sure, but they accomplished their goal, and I like that from Ryder. It's these little steps that are going to build momentum for your squad to do well at this event, but there really may not be a lot of time heading into it, as this could be at least the end of game one if Sanguine can capture. Lillian straight to the point for Ryder. And he's going to gather about 15%. Remember, this is comeback mechanic for the Southeast Asian representative, forcing the Ancient Rage very early from El Zulu, who goes in for the hook. And they may be able to know I Am Ray goes down thanks to the turtle, but El Zulu also loses quite a bit of health.
You could see he really wanted to hit that punch. He really wanted to get that reset big. Oh, wow. He goes 50-50 on ways he could have gone, and he chooses the less fruitful path. Makes the counter rotation, though, as Skrilly tries to exit his way out. Hits the slide and stays alive there. Almost went down alongside Creams. I mean, that's a good look from Maldamba, but now Sanguine again. Look at the zone that they've got. Look at the ultimates that they've got to fall back on.
And Lillian now getting dismounted. That is almost assuredly going to make this a very tall task indeed. Earthen Guard use, so that's the defensive mechanic for him. Enlightenment still available. And Sanguine, all the while, have their support on the objective. That's a victory here for the North American PGS representative. And they just drink some water, say, it's all business today.
I've actually really liked what I've seen done with Ying. Ying is honestly a higher priority for me than Maldamba. I feel like Illusory Rift, just the amount of spread pressure you're able to be bringing. Or you look at one set ago when Ying was able to come right out of base, pop it, blink right back into the fight.
Yeah,
it just feels
big.
like I've seen way more impactful Illusory Rifts than I have seen Dread Serpents.
And you know what?
Tournament.
There's another thing too, Nick, the fact that the body block, you don't mention it, but it's the intangibles of the fact that a clone is put out. It is not only healing, but I'm trying to shoot the Ying and I'm shooting the clone instead. It's just one of those things on smaller maps where there's chokes that people fight out of, that if you could throw a Ying clone and block 50% of the choke, I mean, that's an unaccounted for amount of, I think, support that she's bringing to the roster. Yeah, it's pretty incredible stuff there. And Sanguine, as we would have expected, take the victory over Team Ryder to start out of this set, the last set of the day. Let's send it back to the desk and see what Vox and Gore have to say about Sanguine's victory.
Definitely a lot of control coming down from Sanguine, I think is the best way to say it. There were times, no hesitation on using their ult, no hesitation on creating a great zone. Every single time Ryder tried to step up to the plate, they got batted away incredibly hard.
The only thing I've really got to say for that is that, you know, Sanguine, they took the 4-1. Ryder got a single point. That's all they've got this tournament so far. That is literally the first time they have been on the scoreboard, folks. And it was from a defense. But they are yet to get that capture in, and they've really got to get that going for game number 2 if they want to have a chance at coming through. I mean, look at these stats. 0 kills for Dolan 10, 0 for Creams, 6 for Skrilly, and Skrilly went 6-6, so actually pulling even there, and the Droga's a bit of a saving grace at that point, but I Am Ray's Androx is 4-10, not performing like we really needed it to.
When the other team's Ying has a better slash line than you, that's when you need to start worrying about it. 5-1 for Jalen Sanity.
But, you know, Ying
175,000 versus the 106 coming down from Kareem's.
Yeah.
Would you agree? I mean, Nick was talking about the fact that right now Ying is going to be high priority, definitely higher than Maldamba. Do you agree that she's maybe even higher, like something that most teams need to be looking at maybe for their first few picks?
I'm going to make a bold statement and say that Ying right now is in the same position that a Solar Blessing Furia was after maybe the first round of nerf. She's not quite the fragger that you used to have, but she can reset fights. Ying can reset fights. You have a huge amount of early game pressure. And if you don't have a Willow or a Lian or both on your team, you are going to be in deep trouble facing a Ying early game.
So, I'm going to have to recap a moment that I'm sure Ryder here would wish that we absolutely would forget. Unfortunately, that was going to be the Dragon Punch at the very beginning, which had to come through, although right now I will say Envy of the game coming through. Your Steel Series MVP being able to play incredibly well throughout all that. But Skrilly, at the very beginning of the game, it actually looks like it's going to be close. They get 90%.
They do.
And a Dragon Punch comes through. And what does that Dragon Punch do? It actually encircles Fernando. It does not connect with him at all. It is a complete whiff. And in my mind, if you hit that punch, you potentially take that point, and it's a different story from the beginning. Do you think we even see Ryder go back to Drogoz?
I think that maybe you have to, because it's such a valuable pick to put in the hands of anybody else, but it's so risky, right? I don't want to see them go back to the Androxus, though, because that for me is the big thing that really didn't work most of all.
Well, we're going to be going over to Stone Keep here. This is Sanguine's map pick coming into this one. So I'm curious to see how they're going to kind of facilitate themselves, I guess, coming into this. There's a lot that Ryder did not find success in. Even the defense they got, the 1 point you said they've been able to pick up all tournament, was kind of a narrow win for them, honestly. It was going to be a push otherwise. Looked like it could have been the end of the game, but Sanguine just happened to back off and happened to lose a little bit of momentum, which creates a big stall for Ryder. Do you think they can do anything to turn around here, or was that just too dominant of a performance?
They've got to start winning 1v1s. That's really all they can do at this point right now. It's the same thing as yesterday. Pretty much any member on Sanguine can 1v2 any two members of Ryder at this point, and that is a really big problem. Now, I think that it's a little bit more close than it was yesterday, with this time Sanguine being the opponent rather than Splice. And one of the big things I think that really set that differential from yesterday is the fact that you did have a Ying on the side of Sanguine, which just had so much healing. Now, if Sanguine can start utilizing that themselves, and if they can maybe pull that in with an early game comp, make sure that the Willow and the Lian isn't something that they're facing into, so they have the advantage of all of that early game healing, then they might have a chance. But Gore, even then, it is just a chance for me. It is a slim one, and it is not something which I am totally confident into, unless they pull, again, something weird out of the bag.
I mean, for me, Sanguine right here probably don't need to change anything that they did last time.
No.
I expect Torvald, well, it's not going to be Torvald Khan because Ryder take the Khan ban away from them, but a lot of their picks, a lot of their drafting style, a lot of their play style doesn't need to change, even from Bright Marsh to Stone Keep. Do you have anything that you think should be higher prioritized coming into this, or do you
Grover.
Now, is that just because you want to see Grover, or is that because you genuinely think Grover?
No, because I think that Grover generally has a very strong strat when you play Cathedral, sort of very teamfight orientated compositions for Stone Keep. But again, I'm not sure that that's something that either of these teams have the capacity to do, being completely honest with you. It is a very high-level composition from what we've seen. We've only seen it really successfully used by maybe a Fnatic in Lands Past, maybe the Envy in the online phase and stuff like that. And the Androxus ban from Ryder does actually come through, so they don't want that pick slipping into the hands early on for maybe Envy, but that means that Sanguine just get a Makoa again, and Zulu on Makoa is just more of the same. It's just strong. Ryder do have the opportunity to come back with an Inara, though, and that's just stability which they need at this point.
I mean, 2 times in a row having Makoa is going to make things incredibly easy for you. Inara, like you said, does bring stability, but I feel like it's not going to be enough. One of the things that makes Inara work as well as she does is when you have that support behind you, when you have that healing, when you have the pressure provided by the rest of your team. Otherwise, there's not a lot to get, but they're going to go for both their front lines at the very beginning, Inara and Fernando.
This is what I was thinking about in my head, is they're probably going to grab Inara Fernando. They don't want to deal with 2 aggro tanks. That is difficult to deal with, and it's a bit more easy to deal with the Ashe than it is to deal with the Fernando. But this means to Sanguine, they can just go maybe Ashe Ying or something like that, and they can have all of this staying power. If they really want to make it difficult, they can go Ashe Barrack, although I mean, or Ying Barrack, excuse me, not Ashe Barrack. That would be a triple frontline composition. But that does open up Ryder to have the opportunity to play the Grok, which could be very interesting. So yeah, I'm expecting Ying and then maybe Ashe, or maybe even a damage champion at this point, maybe the Lian or the Drogoz.
I mean, honestly, it's in this perfect area. I think Ying will come through as well, just because of the way the healing has been going. She is definitely the highest priority support I think we have seen all LAN. Drogoz, Lian, Ashe, any of those could kind of go in there. I feel like you don't have to prioritize the front line, though.
It's just such a tough thing for Ryder right now, because they're damned if they do, damned if they don't, right? They take the Drogoz again and alongside the Inara, because I think the Inara is the given in that first pick point. They take the Drogoz and the Inara, they get Fernando Ying on the enemy team. It's double aggro tanking Ying. Sanguine just roll over them. If they go ahead and they take the Ying, then you get the Makoa, the Fernando, and the Drogoz. It's just everything that you do is going to back you into a corner, so Ryder just have to be confident in their own picks right now and not think too heavily on pick versus counter pick. The Cassie will come through, that is locked in, as well as the Maldamba here, leaving that last pick open as just the neutral counter pick if they need it, which has to be hit scan.
I got really excited. I'm glad you were the one who was talking when Dredge got hovered, because in my eyes, I was truly hoping, even if Ryder might not be able to make him look, I want to say, at the highest ability that he could. I'm not sure if it would be, but there's going to be Victor, who's going to give a lot of long-range damage. This is another map that's performed the Ash. That's going to come through to create a lot of space. How are you feeling about Sanguine's lineup?
I think Sanguine's lineup is honestly going very close to what I was predicting even before they started to draft it, because it's just the composition that makes sense and they can kind of take an inch and go a mile with it. Ryder need to draft an Eevee. They didn't play it all along the online phase, but that is the one champion right now that might have a chance at shutting down this Victor in the back line. They're going for the Talus. It is hit scan pressure. You will have some pressure against Drogos here, but I don't think it is going to be strong enough to get any kind of kills against that backline. It's just full of damage. Talus is going in and then straight back out again.
I mean, a lot that is going to be on the line. Who do you think has the better advantage, I guess, going through this game?
Just purely on paper, disregarding who is playing what, it's absolutely Sanguine's draft. I think they got everything they wanted.
Well, they have the draft, they have the game advantage as well, so a lot of things that are going in favor of Sanguine. The question is, can they keep this set going in their favor, or will Ryder be able to take us to a game number 3? The only way to find out is to go and jump into the game by going to our casters for this game number 2.
Thanks, Gore and Vox. It's game 2, and the day is almost at a close. Will it end with Sanguine advancing and Ryder going home? Or will the story continue here beyond Stone Keep? Let's find out as we get into the lobby and have these players start loading in to get ready to battle it out.
Spiciest things I think picked up here is probably Ash and the Talus. Talus has been struggling a little bit this event. Without Torvald behind him, I don't think a lot of people have him in the pocket, right? When you have Andro come kind of in and out of the meta, there's a lot of guys that just sort of hop back on the horse. Talus has never really been all the way in before, so you only have very select few players that I feel actually feel confident on this pick despite its strength.
Professional snuggler Kresnik. I just like that we're getting
Cries over spilt milk.
You know, I wasn't
What are
gonna
these?
mention that one.
What are these titles?
I don't know what they are. The Absolute Madman.
I mean, we do patch notes, but I never like hear about. I'm like, what are these? Where do these come from?
I don't know. You know, Garrett and these guys, they
just sneak that in.
I mean, it's so creative there. And as we get going in the game and the sound starts to come through, we're gonna find just a brawl, an outward brawl here on the top of Stone Keep.
First blood comes through on to Dolan, picking that one up. Envy will answer back quickly there. 15% for Team Ryder. On the objective here, El Zulu manages to take down Kareem's before heading to the objective himself.
30% and counting here for Team Ryder. Sanguine Esports trying to hold this thing on, and I swear it almost feels like we're going to like a replay here in terms of what the approach is. They stay on the top, continue to try to fight. El Zulu goes in the shell shield. He's going to get off and get healed back up again. A nice dredge anchor, but this time Skrilly finds the kill, so not quite deja vu. They do get a little bit of value from Team Ryder, but is it enough?
ADS from long distance, honestly still finding some good damage here when it's all said and done. 87% on the objective for Team Ryder. Sanguine have Envy where they need him. He's pouring the damage out onto the field, and unless an answer is found, it's only a matter of time before he simply wins this fight.
And there it is, 36% and counting here for Team Ryder. But Sanguine Esports actually, despite Ryder having 93%,
boom,
pardon me, Sanguine are going to take this one. So a barrage available. It looks like this is going to be very, very hard for Ryder to try and get back in. They do have Dolan attempting, and the barrage here are going to zone out a lot of members, but they both use their dashes and escape.
A little bit surprised to see that there. I think Barrage does fairly well against Inara if her DR is down, of course. She doesn't have a way to just get behind a shield or something like that. So as long as you play around her cooldowns, the in and out, I am Ray takes the 1v1 with Envy. He eventually dies to Big Wow.
But they got Zulu.
But a nice move.
This is a really nice move. If you can get Big Wow, I think you've won this fight here. In fact, you might have won the fight no matter what. Oh man, Sanguine Esports, fantastic attempt here. And, you know, it ends up working out for the boys here from Southeast Asia. I think this is going to turn into their first objective capture of the tournament, and maybe ever.
Maybe ever.
I think this might be Southeast Asia's first objective capture ever in Paladins Esports.
Congratulations to the lads. They're on the come up here. Team Ryder on the offense for the first time, certainly today. Sanguine Esports has to fall back. If they could have gotten El Zulu there, it may have been a different story, as Ancient Rage did come up. But
fantastic.
We're not here to cry over spilled milk.
You know, Jalen Sanity actually is specifically here for that. The absolute madman. The absolute madman, mad lad, El Zulu. Actually dying quite a bit in that game despite the Makoa, and Dolan has gotten the better end of the frontline trade. Let's take a look at some of these KDAs. Bagel really trying to save the day, but look at that. Everyone on Sanguine in a negative KDA. Skrilly, I Am Ray popping off after some lackluster performances throughout the tournament. I think maybe they've just turned the heat on, knowing they might go home.
Yeah, solid stuff there from pretty much everyone on Team Ryder. The only light at the end of the tunnel is this Drogo sitting at 6-2. They weren't able to bring him down. Bagel was forced to touch. He had to get off of his perch, and that was one of his 2 deaths there. Sitting on the Dragon Punch now, 67% for
nice.
Sanguine Esports on this Ashe ultimate. Every other ultimate is available, and this payload is getting close. It's still a minute on the clock.
I mean, my man, we are seeing some serious pressure here from Team Ryder, and it's not a joke at this point. Sanguine Esports have not figured out how to deal with this composition. And I was really going to remark earlier on in the draft that it's nice to see, no dredges, no anything crazy, as a last pick for Sanguine to say, hey, let's show off because we already got 1 win. We're probably going to take these guys down. It showed respect, and now the respect is shown that it needed to be due because Ryder are demanding it here with a very nice push after getting their first objective in what has to be years, if ever, in Paladins.
With a lot of, the top teams out already pre-qualified for the HRX final, and with this whole tournament being best of 3s, I don't know if we'll see very much spicy picks. I don't know if we'll see
at all
really a whole lot of fun stuff come through. I think it's going to be pretty much serious business the whole way through.
But you can at least lose once, right? And that's the big thing about here. At HRX, you can't lose at all. Yes, longer sets, but would you rather have a longer set and, not 2 chances? I don't know. Definitely got to put your best foot forward. That's the moral of the story here. And some grenades from Envy finally hitting. Dolan on the top side throws the wall off to cut off the assault rifle damage from the Victor. And now Skrilly going to get a nice angle. I Am Ray took him out in the last fight, which I think was a big reason why they were able to win the point.
So much damage coming out from these Victor grenades at the moment here.
Still alive.
Ray didn't have his rune to travel down. Had to try and blitz up or out. Envy pouring damage out onto the battlefield currently here. I want to look at the damage charts here and see if he's been able to pull back in front just by a small little margin.
Wow.
Frankly impressed that Cassie's been able to keep up after what I just saw.
I'd say thank God you brought Bagel. That's my opinion here for Sanguine, because if not, I don't know what's going on here. He makes a big impact. He's 6-2 to start that defense, and I think he goes even higher as a result of the extension of Southeast Asia's Team Ryder trying to push that through. Lillian had an opportunity to maybe force Elzulu's Ancient Rage, but threw the shield up instead. And you see a lot more talking, a lot more activity in the booth now, as they finally had a little bit of success.
Yeah, definitely a good sign from Ryder. After their first offense, doesn't result in a conversion, but it does give them confidence. Hey, we can do this. We can win these fights against, frankly, a pretty damn good team in Sanguine Esports, one that's certainly been more tested and more proven than Team Ryder has. Pretty even damage split across the board, but it's a pretty severe fall off after Drogos. You're looking at Kresnik at 38K on Ashe after the 54K from Drogos here. Not a very close race.
Oh my, I Am Ray deletes Bagel. Envy returns it back, but it took a barrage. Oh, and the Dragon Punch, I think, was already used because it was charged up, and he died mid-charge. So that is going to mean that Drogos, oh, no, just barely keeps it.
Hook.
And Elzulu and Kresnik do the work. Not all the work, but most of it here as they hold on to the objective. 24% now for Sanguine.
The important duties here. I wonder, is this Elzulu tagging out Kresnik? Kresnik going off to zone now, has his ultimate available. And Zulu does not, so he's probably most effective on the objective. He can't get too ridiculous here. Could be a good opportunity for an Ashe. He had a lot of people kind of choke pointed off in that hallway, the up-down. That's why you like to see people bonk their head, because that is just so theatrical.
That took way too long.
Get over yourself, Ashe.
And let's talk about it. If that landed, I Am Ray's dead. That's 600 damage. He's dead at that point. Now he gets this Rune of Travel off, the inner power. The inner strength, geez Louise. All of these things from Talus coming out, revitalizing him, you could say, making him look a bit evanescent. And Bagel finds the kill despite all of the fancy language. He just gets the job done. Kresnik here on a 9 streak, and the Ashe has certainly come to play.
Really surprised that Kresnik is actually able to survive there. I thought Inara does a beautiful job of just ignoring during the ultimate, immediately target swapping, body blocking the dash, and poor I Am Ray doesn't even get to use an ability, click a button, put some input into the video game. He's just out.
And that's no fun to be had. That's no fun to be had. Bagel though, man, it's been fantastic. And
Oh,
what a
another
hook
one.
again. Elzulu and Bagel definitely delivering some wow moments here on Stone Keep. What a coming out party here for Sanguine and this support turn damage dealer who's been such a such a face of Paladins in the North American scene, whether in the PGS, whether in ranked, whether in casual. He's just been around for so long. It's nice to see him have some success on the LAN stage.
Yeah, getting into a good rhythm here, Zulu now. Zulu and Big Wow just combining, just playing Makoa Drogos. This sort of, yin and yang here. One's big and beefy, and one's going to do all the damage. The other helps set it up. This combination, I feel like, is a big part of something that's been missing. A style that used to be kind of really popular way back in the day, and one that I would like to see be successful again. I mean, earlier today, you look at the way Cephacloud and Doodle were able to combine. They looked great, just sort of playing off each other.
They did. Yeah, they did. Two great ultimates as well. I mean, you talk about a Dragon Punch and an Ancient Rage. I'd pretty much put that up against anything in Paladins and expect it to come out on top. Elzulu misses the hook, and it's good backing away. Good movement from I Am Ray, but Elzulu still pops the Ancient Rage and gets the kill. But is this enough? Is this a little too preemptive? We don't see Kresnik with his ultimate yet.
That's a big body keeping everybody in spawn. 3 members of Ryder just trying to come and play. Now it's 4. The Shell Shield is available. Talus is doing his best to shred through. Zulu goes into a late Shell Shield, but he manages to stay alive, drops down, and pushes the payload home.
Oh my goodness, what an incredible play. I'm just expecting maybe they got distracted. Maybe it was a really big fire spit. We were watching Zulu's perspective, but he skates out with just a little bit of life. And this is that play we were talking about. They combined for the hook into the rocket, now the hook into the Dragon Punch.
It's the hardest hitting punch this side of the Mississippi. Zulu, he plays so well. So many moments there. The last second Ancient Rage when he has very minimal HP. Last second Shell Shield. Absolute maximum effectiveness out of just about everything in the kit there down the stretch for the big front line.
I think the biggest thing for me that I saw too is that I Am Ray didn't have the same amount of success. He's 6-6, and I think a lot of those kills came in round 1. Round 2, he died a little bit more. He traded out with Big Wow early, Envy got the kill, and then you have a Victor with Shrapnel just shooting onto the point versus a Talus running around, and I think that's the big difference there. Uses the true power, excuse me, and not able to get any damage, but Skrilly finds a kill on the Jalen Sanity. That is huge. The support is down now for Sanguine.
Listen, Talus is certainly good, but it's not easy. This does not come freely. If you don't know what you're doing on this character, you will get lost in the sauce, and you will not find much effectiveness here. And Zulu has been all over I Am Ray, not letting him do anything. He will finally be made into turtle soup near the objective.
But you know what? Here's the thing. Envy, again, so smart at staying out of these fights. I Am Ray trying to get Big Wow and Envy, but he's only getting 1, and he's dying, and the other one is snowballing. Look at Envy's streak. 16. He has not died for 16 eliminations, and that is why Team Ryder can't stand on this objective for too long. Dolan with a seismic crash does not find much. Big Wow finds Skrilly. It's looking like Sanguine might be moving on.
The Illusory Rift popped as well. Everyone being healed massively across the board for Sanguine Esports. Look at the health bars, man. They are just not going anywhere. None of these teammates even being dropped below half HP through the onslaught from Team Ryder. Multiple ultimates used, but not a single kill gained.
The excellence, the competitive nature of these boys. Sanguine Esports put North America on their back in the PGS, and they do it here at LAN as well, defeating Team Ryder and keeping their hopes alive to head to World Championships over in November 16th at DreamHack at LAN. It's going to be an exciting one, and congratulations to Sanguine for moving on. Ryder will be going home, the first team to be eliminated in this tournament.
Absolutely. Definitely expect Sanguine to take that win. They looked good doing it. Very solid stuff. I'm looking forward in this event, though. They're going to have to, I think, be asked a little bit more of. They maybe have to adjust this draft a little bit, and Ryder certainly did their best.
Well, that's a fantastic job done by Sanguine. They'll be moving on, as we mentioned. Let's send it over to the desk to wrap up not only this set, but wrap up the day 2 of our PWC qualifier LAN.
Well, it went pretty much the way I think everyone thought that one was going to go. Ryder, unfortunately, going to be going home now. Sanguine keep their dreams alive as they move forward in the bracket, and that is going to be a big thing. And the notes for that game were mainly the fact that Ryder captured the first point. That's actually incredibly impressive from them. It's unfortunate, though, that even though they were almost able to push it, that's pretty much where it died.
They almost capped the 3rd point as well, and that's the big thing, but Sanguine just had a better hold on there, and that just to me shows, mid-match, mid-round adaptability, which these more experienced teams have, and really that's critical right now. Ryder are coming into this having no prior LAN experience for Paladins. Let's take a look at the post-game stats, and we can kind of see what that disparity is. And that's just not a good death count for Fernando right there.
Yeah. You just do not want to see. This is pretty much the screen that you never want to be on the bottom portion of.
Yeah,
1 and 12
this is
versus
a
the
rank game for
15
me.
and 3 Drogos.
Look at that, 122,000 damage to Victor. This is the big thing. In the draft, I was like, oh, it's going to be an Eevee last pick. They're going to put some pressure on the Victor, and it was a Talus, and the Talus got 74,000 damage done. It just wasn't good enough, and that's really the thing that I'm looking for. It was an inexperience in draft. I don't think that this is a slight towards how Ryder performed more than anything else. I just think it really is that regional inexperience showing, because it's a region, just due to a geographical location, they don't have the opportunity to face up against some of these top teams as frequently as other regions do. For example, North America and Europe, sure, it's a bit of a ping issue, but around 120 stable, you can get away with playing each other, and then you get to share strategies and you get to have all this practice. SEA, they can play versus OCE sometimes, but really SEA is such a geographically big region that your connection might vary so frequently and so much that it might be impossible for you.
Well, we did get the MVP for the set, and that's going to be Bagel Wow coming through, your Steel Series MVP as it is. And it is going to be because of that phenomenal performance on Drogo's solid gameplay coming through. And remember, I mean, if this matters at all to anybody, this is the newer member, I guess, picked up here for Sanguine. And newer doesn't necessarily mean a lot. Bagel Wow has been around almost as long, if not longer, than some of these players being able to play at this high level. And it so far has seemed to be a seamless pickup for them, not only in their fall split, but definitely on lane.
Yeah, Bagel is a player that made their competitive debut, if I'm not mistaken, in the first AVGL LAN that we had back in, was it March or April of 2017?
I want to say
It's
March.
quite some time ago at this point, and since then has just been a recognizable name within the North American scene, whether that's within amateur leagues, or whether that's just within your ranked games or just your online play and stuff. But it's really good to see these players now finding some success, and that does mean that Sanguine, they do keep the dream alive in the bracket, and they haven't been knocked out before big egos just yet.
Well, Sanguine, since they can manage to stay alive, they got their win. They also have an interview ready to go, see how they're feeling about this, but also maybe how they're feeling about their next matchup that they're going to have to face. So let's go ahead and throw to the interview, see how Sanguine's feeling.
I'm just so happy.
Congratulations, gentlemen, on your victory over Ryder. I will say you had probably...
Congratulations on your victory over Team Ryder, gentlemen. I will say you had probably one of the more difficult first-round matchups up against Virtus Pro. So just talk to us a little bit about your mentality coming in today. Did you feel very defeated after yesterday, or were you just like, well, it's Virtus Pro, it's PPL team?
I mean, it's Virtus Pro, right? It's EU. It's a region we haven't really played outside of the few scrims we got the day before. So it was. I see Virtus Pro as a favorite personally going into this. So we're here to learn, see what they wanted to do, see exactly how strong they were, gauge that, and use that to mentally prepare for the days moving on.
You know, you can actually tell just hearing you speak the level of analytics that you kind of apply to your decision making. And that's probably why Vex and Rock were very complimentary of your ability to draft well for this team and play make in terms of play call for these teams and some of the decisions you have to do. Do you think that's going to be enough? And do you have the tools to make a run and really qualify top 4 here?
I think as a unit, we've been playing together for long enough that even when our communication falters, sometimes we do still have that, like, people are still shifting to the right places. We've done the motions a bunch of times. In terms of like the drafting and analytics, I actually don't do all the drafting on the team. I think Vex was going off of a conversation we had like at the last LAN, but it's Jake a lot of the time setting up those plays and stuff. But mid game, it's a little bit of everybody. I still think we've played enough that as long as our communication is strong, I think we could do it.
So Envy, as a guy who's kind of played in the PPL before, he's had a sort of higher echelon of experience. Talk me through your role in this team and just the team in general. Who's making these calls? Who's kind of giving input on the draft, things like that?
Yeah, so usually I try and kind of play more like a make sure that we know all of our options. So right. Like if we have a draft in mind, like think about, okay, well, we're leaving this open, how's that going to affect us? Is it going to mess us up? And so trying to make sure to build consistency.
Sure. Well, gentlemen, congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
Good luck in your further matches. We're going to send it back over to the desk, guys, to close up the day.
Well, it was an interesting day with the way things went. Sanguine being able to survive the first elimination match that we've had, but more are going to be coming in the next few days. Teams are no longer feeling as safe as they were. Some still sitting up in the top bracket are going to be happy, but I mean today, Mouse not able to find their win, Zaga not able to showcase what we thought What exactly did you feel, I guess, about the way today went?
Oh, honestly, Gore, it was more than the same, and that is reflected in today's stats. Just to throw a few numbers out there, at the start of today, we came in with 22 unique picks and almost entirely standard compositions, and we finished the day with entirely standard compositions and now 23 unique champions played throughout the LAN's duration. Today, the only difference was Vivian. We still have the only four champions in-game with 100% pick ban rate being frontlines only, that is Inara, Khan, Makoa, and Torvald. And as far as the win percentages go, it's now Makoa who's right up there at the top, 62.5% win ratio. Khan has fallen off their high horse at 80 down to 50. Inara's sitting pretty at, 50% win rate right now. So tomorrow, I'm feeling more of the same.
Tomorrow is definitely going to be a big day for a lot of these teams, and probably, like you said, more of the same, but a little bit more backs against the wall. Renegades, Mouse, whoever loses goes home.
Well, that's a big
it's
one.
Probably the biggest one that Mouse has hopes to win. They definitely felt, I think, a little bit more confident. Even though they took their loss today, they were saying, we're looking towards tomorrow. Same thing, more or less goes for Renegades, Zaga, and Cryptic as well. Whoever loses will go home. And then we finally get to see, I guess, the Kings who are coming back. Fnatic will be playing against Kanga, and then Virtus Pro to top off the day with Splice.
I'm looking forward to black and orange, orange and black. The most interesting color matchup I can possibly think of in Virtus Pro and Splice, which is green and purple and black and white and yellow and black. It's just gonna be a rainbow palette everywhere, folks, and it's gonna be some real sparks flying matches. I'm excited to see if Fnatic, maybe their roster's feeling a little bit more unstable after the Monopoly games of last night, Gore. That is a big question for me.
I mean, never know how the comms are going to be feeling after a game of Monopoly, but that is going to be it for the day. Again, remember, everyone, that these teams are playing for 4 spots that are going to be coming to one event. That is going to be HRX. They are trying to get there to meet the likes of G2, of Envy, of NIP, and your current reigning world champions, Na'Vi. So they are all trying to get to that point, get to the point where they can maybe crown themselves world champions. But that's going to be it for today. That's going to be it for everything we have here. Tomorrow, make sure you tune in again at 11 a.m. and we will be back with more elimination matches, more qualifiers for the Paladins World Championship.
HRX is brought to you by Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Mixer, Alienware, and Skillshot.
Do you think about the